If you've been using the new 15-inch M2 MacBook Air as your daily driver for a while, you must have figured out that it could actually be the best laptop you can buy right now. But it also has some issues that you should consider if you are planning to buy one. The biggest selling point of this particular laptop is, of course, the form factor. I mean, most of you seem to agree that bigger is always better. Nice. But up until the 15-inch Air was released, I mean, your only other similarly sized system was the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which weighs a ton and also costs a small fortune. The 15-inch MacBook Air, on the other hand, is packed into a super thin and lightweight chassis. But it also doesn't compromise on screen size that much when compared to the 16-inch Pro. Now, the advantages of this are, pretty obvious. It doesn't weigh that much, slips into your bag easily, and you still get a pretty big screen relative to other MacBooks, especially the much smaller 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. Now comparing it to the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air with the XL test, you can see just how much more you can fit on the 15 inches screen highlighted in blue, same with even the 14-inch MacBook Pro. There is a noticeable difference here. Also, if you tend to split view apps and have them side by side, it's much more comfortable on a 15-inch screen as well. Now, are these extra 2 inches really worth the compromise in price and portability when compared to the smaller 13-inch MacBook Air? Well, in my opinion, it is. 13-inch screens can feel really restricted at times, even if you use virtual desktops and switch between them. I'm enjoying the 15-inch screen because it allows more flexibility when I'm working or consuming content. There's less virtual scrolling on web pages, Word documents, or sideways scrolling for Notion or Excel tables, for example. Movies look great on a larger screen, and I just feel like I can get more done when I'm away from my desk setup with my external monitor. And I think you really need to ask yourself a question here. When you're actually in the market for a new laptop, how portable do I actually need my laptop to be? Now, personally, I do take my laptop while traveling and use it in airports or hotels or on planes, for example, but that consists of maybe 5% of my total usage. The rest of the time, it's on a desk or on my lap while I'm sitting on the couch. The ultra portability of the smaller 13-inch Air just isn't something that I can take full advantage of. You know what I do take full advantage of 100 of the time? That 15 inches of screen real estate. So it is a trade-off that depends on how you actually want to use the laptop. Now, a quick side note before moving on. If you are someone who uses your laptop with external monitors, like I do, still even at 3 years after Apple Silicon was first released, you cannot use more than one external monitor with these entry-level Apple Silicon chips. And this isn't a huge deal. I admit there's probably only a few of you out there that this applies to, but it is an annoying limitation nonetheless, and the only solution is a display link dock, which isn't perfect, or upgrading to the Pro Apple Silicon variants, like the 14-inch M2 MacBook Pro, for example. Now, speaking of the 14-inch MacBook Pro, it is frequently compared with the 15-inch Air, especially once you upgrade the Air to what many consider the minimum standard, aka 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD. At that point, you're only a few $100 away from the next model up, the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is better in almost every way when compared to the 15-inch Air, and yeah, it's better because it's aimed at a pro target market. So is the 15-inch MacBook Air actually a good overall laptop? Well, again, remember that it is essentially the exact same as the 13-inch version, so the experience is going to be almost identical, just that this is a little bit more stretched out, and you get an extra 2 inches of screen size, and also this comes with better speakers. But in a nutshell, again, you'll get the exact same incredible performance of the M2 chip. That's more than powerful enough for almost any task you can throw at it. Multitasking with tons of apps and open browser tabs is a breeze. Apps load quickly, and I almost never get these spinning beach ball of death. But I'll tell you one thing. Oh, hang on a check. You can even do some 4K video editing and other slightly more intensive tasks in a pinch. Although, like I said, in a pinch, remember, this bad boy does not have a fan, so it won't perform anywhere near as well as the more pro-oriented MacBooks can. That also means no fan noise ever. You don't need to worry about leaving it sitting on a bed or couch and having no ventilation. And less moving parts equals less internal dust and less chance of part failure. not to mention how insanely thin the chassis is. I mean, it just feels so weird when you're actually holding this thing in your hand. It's almost like it's a piece of sheet metal, it's that thin. But the value of the 15-inch Air really starts to get interesting. Once you take a look at the competition, right? Primarily Windows laptops. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some really thin and portable and good Windows laptops out there, and often they are cheaper than their Mac equivalents as well. But do they have incredible battery life that lasts for 12 hours, plus no fan, super thin solid aluminum chassis with great build quality and very good performance? But I think the biggest turnoff for the 15-inch MacBook Air for non-MacBook users is that it's a Mac, right? And it comes with all the common negatives of a Mac. For example, you cannot upgrade or repair anything. It's all soldered. You're also locked into Mac OS. Obviously, you can virtualize Windows, but it's not the same thing as running it natively. And generally, the pricing is more premium than their Windows counterparts. But those are really the only drawbacks. And if you can get past those, it's going to make switching to Apple an easier decision, even for longtime Windows users. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this machine. It finally bridges the gap between the 13-inch Air and a 16-inch Pro. And I think the price is pretty good too when compared with other similar offerings out there. But do yourself a favor and just stay away from the dark midnight color. I mean, unless you're the guy who just wears a pair of white gloves your whole life. This thing is going to look disgusting and really grubby after just a few hours of use, and you'll be constantly cleaning it. So just, space gray or silver, it might be boring. It's not as exciting as the latest and greatest color, but just do yourself a favor. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you again very soon. Don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up.